Howdy, 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 and thank you for joining me tonight. And we got a really interesting topic we're going to be discussing tonight, and got a lot of thoughts on it. It's one of those laws that I have a love-hate relationship with and always have as a law enforcement officer. But before we can get things started, we got to do as we always do on Sunday nights. We got to get that weather report, and we can only get that from one person, our good old buddy Clearwater Chad.
Hey,
Chad.
Paul, thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah. What's the weather report?
39 degrees in Clearwater, Buffalo, Poe.
Awesome. Let me see what it is here. I forget what the temp is here in Michigan.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad today here.
Been inside for the last few hours. The kids came over for Sunday dinner, so
nice.
36 here. So
yeah, we have pretty similar weather, don't we?
Yeah. I think we're pretty close on the longitudinals, latitudinals. So let's see. We got Fanatic High Desert Railroader. Mandy Gonzalez is here. Hey, Mandy. Miss Sunrise Dawn. Gail Schultz. Pup Groomer. Auntie Harju. And let's see. Grand Theft Hoopty. So, well, thank you, Mandy. Made sure to block off her calendar for the live today. That's
Excellent.
Awesome. Thank you. So, Chad, what do you know about civil asset forfeiture?
Pretty much zero, Poe. I'm hoping you could tell me a little bit about it tonight.
It's a pretty interesting topic.
Excellent. Can't wait.
Well, let's look into it a little bit here. Because civil asset forfeiture was started in the 1980s. And that's when government and law enforcement agencies in the United States and some other parts of the world placed ever-increasing emphasis on targeting the activities of organized crime. I'm reading this from Botanica, folks. Civil forfeiture is the culmination of this enforcement approach. So it started off 1980s. I started my law enforcement career in 1991. So it was, it had been in place for a bit then. I think that over time, it has just gotten completely out of control. Have you heard much about it?
I haven't heard anything.
You don't hear, you haven't heard much
really
about it? Well, there's the gentleman who is on the thumbnail for tonight is a Marine named Stephen Laura. And the reason why I have him as the on the thumbnail for tonight's episode is simply because what happened to him. Now, my understanding is that he is a okay. My understanding is he is a combat veteran. He is, and if you know anyone who is a Marine, then you know Marines are once a Marine, always a Marine. And so what happened was he just won his first round of lawsuit challenging Nevada's civil forfeiture laws. He sued the Nevada Highway Patrol after they took his life savings without charging him with any crime. And that's what's crazy, folks, is that you don't have to actually be charged with a crime for this. So let's see. In February 2021, Stephen was pulled over on a Nevada highway on the way to visit his daughters. The officers who pulled him over never alleged he did anything wrong. He cooperated throughout the ordeal. However, using civil forfeiture, the officers were able to detain Stephen for more than an hour and take his life savings from him. He was left penniless on the side of the highway. The Nevada Highway Patrol used a controversial tactic known as equitable sharing program to send Stephen's money to the DEA with the expectation the DEA would circumvent Nevada law to forfeit the money using the more government-friendly federal law, and then kick back the lion's share to the Nevada Highway Patrol to use it however they wanted. That's just, let's be honest. We're talking about a Marine who has committed no crime, and they pull him over. They never even gave, my understanding is they never even actually gave him a reason for why he was pulled over in the first place. And throughout the traffic stop that they did on him, they ended up getting his permission to search his vehicle. While they were searching his vehicle and going through his property, and I will, I'll go into some of the tactics that are used to obtain the ability to search someone's vehicle. Hey, we got Shayna's in here. We got Chitsa and Boda. So they were able to get him. It says he was cooperative, so he was compliant the whole way through. And Marines, they unless there's something that they feel is out of place, they're not going to they generally they're very cooperative in situations like that. I've dealt with hundreds of Marines in my career, worked with tons of them, so I know, Marines, they're generally very easy to deal with. So this guy, he says, "Okay, you want to search my vehicle? Go ahead." While they're searching his vehicle, I think it was in the area of $47,000 in cash. Well, as it turns out, Mr. Lara doesn't trust banks. He refuses to put his money in banks. He came back. He really has no trust for our banking system. He has no trust for the digital stuff. So he keeps all of his cash with him at all times. They find his life savings, and the light bulb goes off in their head. Well, hey, if he's got like I said, I believe it was in the range of $47,000. So they're saying, you know what? That had to be obtained illegally. He had all the documentation, all the paperwork that he needed. And they knew that they weren't going to be able to do it under the Nevada laws, because the Nevada law wasn't quite so law enforcement friendly. It was more of the person friendly. So what happened at that point was they turn it all over to the DEA. The DEA takes it, and they're going to take the case on at that point. And then when that happens, then they're going to turn around. They're going to give back, I believe it's something like 75% of that money back to the Nevada Highway Patrol, which then they can use to do whatever they want with it. If you're ever driving around and you see a law enforcement car, and on the back of it or on the bumper or something like that, and it says, "Thanks to your local, this vehicle donated by your local drug dealers." What that means is they used civil asset forfeiture money to purchase that vehicle with. There were some departments here in Michigan had that on the back of their vehicle, and people just threw a fit. So you don't see it like you used to, but it used to be a big thing. Thank your local drug dealer for this new car that we're driving around in. And it pretty much looked like he was done. He had no money. He doesn't carry credit cards. He doesn't carry debit cards. He doesn't use the banking system. So here it is. This guy's left in the middle of Nevada, next to his car, and no money to get gas. He's going to see his daughters. They took every bit of money that he had. He ended up having to sue them, and in the court ruling, they found in his favor. But this is the first round, because of course the government's going to turn right around, and they're going to push it even more, because they want to keep every cent of that money that they can. Now, the catch-all in this stuff is that when a civil asset forfeiture happens, the money that is taken, or the money that is obtained when they auction off the property, is supposed to be used to help in drug enforcement. Well, if you use that vehicle, and the loophole in that, it doesn't say how many times, how often, what the specifics are of it. It just basically says that you just have to use it for narcotics purposes. So you send the car out as backup on a raid for a warrant. That's using it for the purpose of narcotics. And that's where, my problem with civil asset forfeiture, I understand the reasoning for it. All right. The reason for civil asset forfeiture was originally for your cartels. Like RICO came about because of mafia. All right. So the only way you can really hurt the cartels is they knew they go down there, they do these raids, they take the narcotics or whatever that they were cooking up. They go down there, destroy their labs, take all that. Well, they just build a new one in a few days' time in another place and keep rolling right with it. When So the only way they were really starting to hurt these cartels was when they started taking their money under the civil asset forfeiture laws. If that money is being used to profit or to run an organized crime element, then, or just for criminal purposes, period, you can take it from them. Let's see. Mak Mirdoshigal, and welcome back. Thank you. I get the intent of the law, but there needs to be a system of check and balances. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Let me finish what I was saying here. So they start using this, and they start catching the mules coming across the border, and they've literally got $1 million, all shrink wrapped, nice and tight, taped to their body. They go through customs. They get picked up at the airport. They get taken someplace. They take all the money that's taped to them, give them however much they're going to pay them for it, and go on their way. Well, so they started getting that. They started catching the packages coming through that were literally just big, huge pallets of cash. So they start hitting them that way, and they start taking the profits away from these cartels, from these criminal organizations. And it causes some really serious damage to a lot of them. Some of them actually ended up folding up because the losses were so great. Now, where the problem starts getting to be a bit crazy is they started it off on the cartels, then they started coming in on the lower level. As they started going down the rungs of the ladder, they started hitting the people from the cartels down, all the way down to the person who's on the street that's dealing. And so when you would come up on somebody that you knew was dealing, you find the narcotics on them, and you take that, you go through and check them all the way through, and you find a big wad of cash rolled up. Well, cash with the narcotics, it's gone. That's going to go through civil asset forfeiture. Okay, that's understandable. The only way you hurt these organizations is by taking the cash. You start hitting the low level street dealers, and start working your way up the food chain, and eventually it starts breaking down their whole infrastructure. Hey, Wendy, what's going on? So as they're breaking down their infrastructure, it starts causing more and more and more damage to these organizations. So that's the way it started working out, and it was doing great. Departments were getting a lot of income that was coming in. There was a lot of, and that was a very common thing, to use it and then send the money off to the DEA or to a federal agency, and the money would get circulated back. Where it started getting to be a problem is when they started expanding the net of what they were doing. And pretty much the way the laws are written, in most places, any crime that is committed, and you have something that can be used as a tool to help commit that crime, whether it be money, property, things like that. Then you got to remember, they weren't just taking money. They would go into these places like the grow houses. Before cannabis became legal in Michigan, one of the things that you do is you go in and you go into these grow shops that they have, and literally you go in there and there's tens of thousands of dollars worth of lighting, heating, all kinds of hydroponic equipment in there. All that comes out too, because now you got their money, you've got their crop, and you've got all the equipment to grow the crop. All that goes, and it pretty much shuts them down. Let's see here. Let's see what Sir Crepitus has to say. Subject has always angered me. Law enforcement should be required to prove the money was gained from crimes. I feel bad for those who are innocent. Exactly, and that's what I'm getting into here. But what I'm doing, I agree. Sir Crepitus was an officer for 34 years. Never do that to someone innocent. Yeah, exactly. And that's why I have a love-hate relationship with the whole civil asset forfeiture laws. And the reason for that is cases like Mr. Lara. There was an elderly woman who was in her 70s. Hey, Marjan. There was an elderly woman who was in her 70s that was down in Louisiana, and I was probably a sergeant or so when I heard about this. She helped out very heavily with her church. She volunteered all the time. One of the things they had going on was they were having a bake sale to help raise funds for the church. And so she had gone. She was part of the bake sale. She was doing everything. They did all the baking there at the church. And she had brought in all kinds of stuff. She brought in the chocolate chips, the eggs, things like that. And she also, one of the things she had was flour. Well, apparently they had dumped the flour out into a big bowl while they were there. And so they figured, all right, we'll just dump it into a Ziploc bag. She also has all the money from the bake sale, which I think at that time was like $11,000 or something like that. There was a huge bake sale, went on for a few days or something like that, but it was a lot of money. So she gets pulled over in Louisiana. The officers, another situation where they get her to allow them to search her vehicle. And she, while they're doing that, they find that bag of flour. And it's written on the front of it, flour in marker. They say, oh no, that's cocaine. They take all of her cash, all the cash that she's got. They take the flour, which they're claiming is cocaine, and they forfeited her car. Now we're talking about a woman in her 70s, never criminally charged with anything. They took all this stuff from her, left her on the side of the road in Louisiana, an elderly person, and they thought it was all right. That was another case that ended up in a huge lawsuit. And I don't remember if it was either Louisiana State Police or it was a county sheriff's department. It wasn't a city department from what I remember, but it was one of the higher departments, county or state. And that was a huge lawsuit, and it took years. She actually died, if I remember correctly, just a few months after winning the lawsuit and getting the money back and donating it back to the church. But these are examples of where you have citizens who have not committed a crime. They have no proof that they've committed a crime, yet they take their property, they take their money. In the case of Mr. Lara, it was his life savings. It's different when it's a matter of this was a church fundraiser. Someone isn't left with no way to be able to take care of themselves because they don't have any funds left. So they end up they go through all these processes, and like I said, they intentionally use DEA or another federal agency because the federal laws are very government friendly and allow them to do this, and it makes it much easier for them to keep the money. And the sole purpose of it, when you're looking at cases like this, the reasoning that they're taking this and not charging these people criminally is because they want that money. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They can try to claim it any way they want to, but they want that money, which is going to go right back into the system. And, I could, like in the case of Mr. Lara, $47,000. I know that they're just sitting there going, ooh, getting a new car. I hope I get that new car, or I get Sarge's car. That's the feeling you get from these things. Now, I'll give you an example of where civil asset forfeiture should be and the way it's properly done. Got a call from an officer. Hey, this subject's over here parked right on the corner, right across the street from a school. Well, we knew that this person was a notorious dealt in narcotics. He was more than just a street level guy. He was the guy who was getting it out to the street level people. We approach his vehicle, and in the process, as we're walking up, you can see little plastic Ziploc bags, the little tiny ones that they put the rocks in when they're selling them. So you can see that right there gives us a good amount of probable cause as we're going up. As we approach the vehicle, can smell a strong odor of cannabis from the vehicle. So as we're putting these things together, the officer that I was working with, he and I were the same rank. But I was working overtime on his shift, and the way it worked was when you work overtime on someone's shift, even though they're the same rank, they're going to be senior because it is their shift. You just don't walk into someone's yard and tell them how to pet their dog. So he brings the gentleman out, and the guy instantly wants to start turn, and he seems like he wants to get away from the officer. I get around to the other side, we get him secured. In his waistband, a loaded Colt 45. It's a Colt Python, I believe it was, with an 8-inch barrel, big honking revolver. It was loaded and right there in his waistband. And so we already know he's a convicted felon. All right. So you can't own a firearm if you are a convicted felon. Get him in cuffs, search him down real good. We start finding those little packets on him with what looks like rock in it. A field test kit immediately confirmed that it was, and he was placed under arrest. While we're checking his vehicle, there's over $15,000 in cash broken up into $1,000 bundles. Also in his vehicle, we found 22 packets of rock cocaine, along with 12 packets of heroin. Now you got to remember, he's at the road tees out. So you got the school is here, all right, and he's right here on the corner, parked right across the school. He was no less than 300 feet from a school, and he's out there with this in his vehicle, slinging this in front of a school, an elementary school, which was in session. Take him in, forfeit all of it, forfeit his vehicle, his money, the firearm, which we later found out was reported stolen, big time. That's a case where more than happy to use civil asset forfeiture. All right. The problem I have is that when greed takes over, and I'm talking about the green monster, and you start seeing the dollar signs in people's eyes when they're doing stuff like this. And what really bothers me about that is the fact that, they know that folks probably have not committed any crime. There are a lot of people, especially in this day and age, with all the wild people on both sides of the aisle who have no trust whatsoever in the government, have no trust in the banking system. There are a lot of people who are resorting to cash only, and there are a lot of people that are putting all of their savings into gold, silver, and things like that. So it's not unusual to run into someone that has large amounts of cash on them. It used to be, it was unusual to see someone walking around with more than $1,000 on them. I mean, I've known some executives who they would literally walk around with $8,000-9,000 cash on them at a time. But the thing is that, just having that amount of money on you doesn't mean you've committed a crime. It doesn't give you probable cause of a crime. But they've set these laws up to where if you have an overt amount of money, and I forget what it is, I think it's now $5,000. If you have more than $5,000 cash, then they automatically assume that is the profit of a criminal act. And so that's how they use that to forfeit money from people. Think about it. You sell a car for $7,000. Person hands you $7,000 in cash. You count it all out. You make sure you got it. Put it in your pocket. On your way home, and next thing you know, you're getting pulled over. Officer comes up. Hey, can I check your vehicle and all that? Okay, no problem. Or even if you say no, oh, that's okay. I'll get a dog out here. You need to stay in your vehicle. Shut your vehicle off. I need you to keep your hands on the steering wheel. 45 minutes later, the dog shows up. Now you've been sitting there. And you've been there maybe an hour at this point because of the stop itself, the time of the interaction, and then the time when the officer asks you to let him search the vehicle. And then the next thing you know, it's, you're waiting for the canine handler to get there. I can tell you personally, our department, even though we had a good sized department, we had one canine handler, and if he's on vacation, then you have to get a canine from another city. Where it gets crazy, folks, and this is the truth. For a long time, they would have the canine hit on the money. They would have the canine sniff the money. Well, I believe it was either the Department of Justice or the FBI did a study where they went into banks and randomly got $1,000 in fives, tens, 20s, and hundreds. So they would take those, they would put them immediately into evidence, and they would take them to wherever their office was. They would have the canine come in, and what they found was every stack of money tested positive for narcotics. And it was through working with the United States Treasury Department and a few other agencies that it was determined that pretty much unless the money is freshly minted and is just going into circulation, unless that situation is in place, then the fact is that the money's going to at some point have come in contact with some kind of substance which will give a positive read from a canine. All right, so that's not really a valid thing anymore, but there are still places that do it, and they'll do these kinds of things. How, what do you do? The dog walks around your car and they say we got a positive hit from the dog. All right, let's remember, like I told you, they have the right to lie to you in their investigations. You do not have the right to lie to the officers. So this is one problem that I really see. That's not true. I mean, I personally have worked with police canine and all the things that I've done, and believe me, I can tell you that the actual success rate on those dogs hitting on it is right in the 90% and above area. All right. And every dog has a different tell. And a tell is a movement or something that the animal does that tells you that, and no, Ellie, it's not absolutely true. All right. Unless you got to bring some proof with what you're saying. I've been there. I've seen it. I've done it. All right. I've taken the dogs and I've done the things where we have put samples of different kinds of substances, and they're in tubes that have little tiny holes in them, and walk them along a line and have that tube shoved in the bushes where it cannot physically be seen. Have the dog walk all the way down, hit on that one point, take them to the end, bring them back, and have them hit again. All right. In that exact same spot. So, bring your proof. That's what I'm saying. You can sit there and you can spout that all the time, but if you're going to bring me something like a Vice article or something like that, that's not going to be valid. You need something like an official Department of Justice statement on it. A lot of places will tell you. No, it hasn't. So the fact is that this is, folks, I'm always open to civil debates on things. Hey, Joe, I'll catch up with everybody in a minute. I'm open to civil debates, but the fact is that if you're going to come in and you're going to make statements, make sure you have the information you need to back it up. All right. Like I said, I've been there. I've handled the canines. I've worked with canines in 32 years. Watch them walk past dozens of objects. We've put oregano in tubes. We put catnip in tubes and then put cannabis in a tube. Watch the dogs walk by and completely ignore the oregano, the catnip, those kinds of things, and then hit directly on the tube that has the cannabis. I know these things. I've watched it. I've done it. I've seen the DOJ studies on it. So the thing is that these dogs don't give false positives more often than not. If there's going to be anything that's going to be a false positive on it, most of the time it's the handler that's creating that false positive, not the dog. Because dogs can sniff out a rose covered under a pile of manure and they can sniff it out and they can tell the difference. All right, let's see here.
Excellent.
Emma Goodsil's in here. All right, Bat Goat, what's
Hey,
up?
Coop.
Sam UIF98. All right, come on with an easier name than that. I'm playing. Thank you for being here. Let's see. Oh, the inappropriate heifer's here. Sir
Yeah, it's great to see everyone.
So Shane, Gail Schultz, Apostate Alex. Oh, it's all right, bud. You're here. That's the main thing. Make sure I'm not missing anybody. Boda 29. Looks like we've got Rally Sport. Okay, so let me get back to some of these comments here and see what we got going on. Let's see. That's what makes me upset about the way laws are written. I've had as much as 10K cash on me when I was buying a used motorcycle from a private party. Normal people do that sometimes. Exactly. Marjan, we're not all rich like Marjan there, but joking, Marjan. But yeah, that is not uncommon, but it's the law. I've never participated in a drug trade. Apparently, I ought to look into it if there's that much in it. Money. Yeah, you have no idea. I mean, I watching somebody who has no job, you never see them doing anything but out walking the streets, drive around in a $100,000 vehicle, wearing the newest kicks, the best outfits that you can find, most expensive outfits, dripping in jewelry. Where are they getting that money? There is big money in it, but there's also big time in it. Let's see. Sorry, I paused the stream for a while. That's ridiculous. Cops didn't even test the flower seed. That's what angers me is they, and I don't remember what their exact excuse was for why they didn't feel. We have what are called field test kits, and it's very simple. I'm going to pull a picture up so you can see what they look like. But it is really so simple. There we go. That's a good one. All right. So
Poe, it's not like in the movies where the officer does it with his finger and tastes it.
Now, if you don't want to die, whoo, oh my gosh. I've got a good story about that. It like killed me. Okay, but this one right here, this will give you an idea. It actually has a Ziploc to the top of it. And so what you're going to do is you're going to take and you're going to get a sample of what it is that you have. You're going to make sure that the test kit that you're using is marked for the kind of element you're looking for. And like with this one, you see this blue right here, that blue square? Well, you put the element in there, and then you're going to see there are tubes inside, and it tells you which ones to pop first. You're going to pop them, shake it up, and then you're going to let it rest for about 30 seconds to a minute. And if the item that you have in there is what it is what you're looking for, then that item is going to turn that blue. All right. It's going to be bright. I mean, it's almost like neon blue. And they're crazy. So it's that simple. I mean, we carried a box of those. We had them for for different types of narcotics that we would be testing for. But you literally had boxes of them in the trunk. How hard is it to walk to your trunk of your car, open a box up, pull one out, go over, take a little sample, put it in there, see if it is or not. It is not that hard. And there are some of those departments that don't have a lot of money, that's a big win for them, and when they can forfeit it like that. And there are some states, and I think the laws are starting to change in a lot of them, but one of the problems that you had, there are states where once they started the forfeiture process, you were never going to get, you might win your case, but you'll spend 10 times the amount that you got forfeited from you as you would in paying for legal fees on it. Gail Schultz, don't put money in your mouth and don't speed on the way home. You don't have to be on your mouth, believe me, just in your car. Mm-hmm. And besides that, you want to get sick real quick? Yeah, put money in your mouth. let's see. Getting on down here. Cash will almost always test positive. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yep.
That is because there was a test done where they went out, like I said, they went all over the country and took samples from banks all over the country, and they found that unless it was freshly minted and the bank was actually issuing it out from receiving it, this stuff all of it had come in contact somewhere. And the way it comes in contact is you have someone doing something dirty, they put their money in the bank, that money gets mixed up with all the other money, all the particulates just start swooping around in there. Trained narcotics dogs are very accurate. Absolutely. Let's see. I came across a narcotics dog a lot during summer when work. Oh yeah. I bet you would, working all those big. And what are, like, I don't know about, Alex, there in the UK, what are the laws pertaining to cannabis? It's something I'd like to know. Well, see, that's the problem, Raleigh, is that they don't arrest them. They take their money and they leave them sitting there with empty pockets. They forfeit the money because the way it works under civil asset forfeiture, and I'm going to find it right now. Here we go. Let's see. I'm going to pull this up and show you guys. All right. Let's see here. Right here.
Mm-hmm.
What is the reason for civil asset forfeiture? Civil asset forfeiture laws allow police to seize property, money, or assets if police merely believe it is connected with criminal activity. Okay? Merely connected. That's why that Marine was left on the side of the road without a penny in his pocket, and they took it all. And the thing is that they are, going through, they're taking this guy's money, and the whole purpose of it is so that they can keep the money. There's nothing, they're not solving any crime. All right. What crime have you solved leaving a combat vet Marine on the side of the road without a penny in his pocket while he's on his way to go visit his daughters? Okay, back goat. I have seen them hit false at the airport when I was an airport medic. It's anecdotal. Well, I could guarantee you what probably happened. Now, as I said, they're 90% or more accurate on these things. What about the fact that it came in contact with other pieces of luggage that would have that on, and it transfers just like on the money? So that's the thing, is where you think it might be a false positive, it could be an actual positive. It's just a very trace amount. It's horrible to think about, but I once read 90% of U.S. currency has traces. Yep. Not just the sea. It has other things. Son is a Leo, went to Brazil, met Leos there, and watched a demo of the dogs. He was amazed. Yeah, and I think a lot of them are using the Malinois. So, man, you talk about a monkey on crack. Those Malinois, if you haven't seen the John Wick 3 Parabellum, there's an excellent shot. I think it's how the Halle Berry character has two of them. They didn't use any CG in how that they were working those dogs. That dog literally jumped on her back and ran up the wall and got a guy off the roof. Crazy. Let's see. I have had state troopers as my teachers in college, and he said that you never taste the drugs with your hands because you never. Okay, now there was a really popular video or short that came out, and what it was you saw an officer touch a possible narcotic item, and the officer immediately went unconscious. They had to use Narcan to bring him back and all that, send him to the hospital. They're saying that may not have been what actually happened, that the officer actually had a basically like a meltdown. They thought that they had touched fentanyl and that it was going to KO them. So that's what happened. But the thing you got to remember is it's not supposed to work that quick through absorption. But the thing is, you still got it in you. All right. So touching those things you have the chance of taking it in. There was an officer, a package was delivered to a store, and it was out of Mexico. They had no idea who it was from, what it was for. They called, officers showed up, looked in it, and inside the package was a newspaper folded over several times. He opened it up, and there's little squares of folded magazine paper. All right. Now, the thing is, why they use the magazine paper is because the oils in a certain kind of narcotic, if you don't use that kind of paper, it soaks into the paper and it loses the oil, so it loses its potency. So officer takes it back to the station. His command officer at the desk goes, "Hey, let me see that. It looks like some brown tar." Ends up in the hospital. Why would you do that? Why?
Because they do it in the movies, Poe. Am I right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the things you gotta, man. Yeah, it's crazy. Susan Holmes, do officers carry Narcan? Most of them do. I know, like here in it's free to the departments. So, and you can go over to when I was chief in Luna Pier, I could go over to the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, and in there they had a literal vending machine. Well, the Narcans expire after so much time. So when they expire, you take the ones that you haven't been used, you take those back, and you put those into a box. You go over to this, and it's literally like the vending machine where you see, Reese's cups, Snickers bars. Oh, they got Pepsi bottles down. Okay, cool. All right, it's like those kinds of vending machines. But you go up, you type in your department's code, and it drops out a box of Narcan. So it's free, and why officers wouldn't carry it, I don't know. But I mean, they use it so often now that you may run into an officer that's used up what they had and didn't have time to get another one when it was needed. So it's crazy. Marshawn, in Colorado and Arizona, we have a lot of police dogs in the airport. Yeah, exactly. There's one I'm going to be talking about that is bad. About some things that they're doing at the airports and how they're really messing up people's lives for no reason. UK is not 420 friendly. Man. Leave it to you, Batgoat, to know that.
Mm-hmm. Batgoat knows his stuff, Poe.
Yeah, he does. Just sent you an email about NHP dog and the current PR issue going on right now. I will take a look at it. Let's see here. It is technically illegal, but the police enacted a policy a few years ago: do not arrest anybody unless it's a large. And that's how it was for here. Medicinal use is very new. Well, that's how we started, was with medicinal purposes, and then it went to recreational from that point. Let's see here. All right. I somehow understand how the ought to have as much power with them as possible, but not more than that, because then it's possible people's rights get violated. I agree 100%, Auntie. I'm very, 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 like I said, I have a very love-hate relationship with civil asset forfeiture. 45 years ago, my dad told me, never drive on I-10 from Florida to Texas with anything of value. Lots of stagecoach robberies. Well, not just stage, but I mean, think about it. You got something of value with you and you get pulled over, and they find reason. Just in practice, I saw them fail. Just my opinion. Yeah, and that's the problem is that, there were a lot of things that I personally witnessed that I saw, and I would say there's no way. And then when it gets broke down, I find out that, well, this is how it happens. This is how it can happen. And that's crazy, but that's, it happens. My son was stopped for driving. Okay. The company didn't renew his policy. It was an accident. So they tested him and he lost his license, but hadn't. Whoa. But the problem is that, it stays in you for a while. It stays in you. So, but my thing is, and like with when I was talking about reporting Scientology, things like that, I'd like to see people actually approaching their state representatives, their Congress, the people in Congress, their senators. And the purpose of that is there needs to be some things done to these laws. When President Obama when he was elected, he said, I'm going to do away with civil asset forfeiture. Well, no, what he did was he tried doing away with the local civil asset forfeiture. All right. So even if you forfeited something, it still went to the feds. The feds took all the money. The feds were still doing the civil asset forfeiture. And it was just, it looked great. And it sounded great on a campaign slogan, but all they did was take it away from the locals, put it to the feds. And instead of it being how it was, where it used to be before, your department just took it and it went through the courts and everything. Well, now what they had was they amended the laws so that the feds could get the money, take a percentage of it, and give the rest back. So the federal agencies are getting this money for nothing. They're getting it for free. And I mean, it was a great slogan, a great thought that they were going to do it. But the problem is that it was all just a smokescreen for what they were doing. And it was garbage. Let's just put it that way. The problems with the civil asset forfeiture is it's something that is necessary when you're trying to break up organized crime. You're trying to take the assets from the folks who are really out there pushing poison on our streets. It started branching from that point because pretty much any misdemeanor or felony action falls under the probability of civil asset forfeiture. So then it went from that to the prostitution. All right. So if they caught someone out there trying to pick up a worker, and a lot of times they would they would have police officers that would go out. It's very, very tight laws on it, on how they can act, what they can say, what they can look like, and all that. But these folks would say, hey, I'm offering, how much does it cost? Okay. Yeah. All of a sudden you got 20 cars around them. All right. And what you've got is they take that person into custody for solicitation, and then they forfeit the car. Well, here in Wayne County, Michigan, where Detroit is, they have what is called push off. So basically what happens is your car gets forfeited. They turn it over to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. Wayne County Prosecutor's Office has a very simple thing. You pay us $1,200, you get your vehicle back, and the prosecutor's office keeps half of it. The department gets the other half of it. So they go out and they do this sting, and say you get 20 vehicles in one night. All right. So, 2 times 6 is 12. So we're looking at somewhere around $12,000 that's being brought in for that department in one night. So believe me, they're going to want that because that's new equipment. It's stuff that they've been wanting and needing, and they couldn't get it. So it's crazy how it works. But literally you can do it. Drunk driving. Think about all these different crimes where they could literally use it. And that's what's scary is they could do it for pretty much anything that's out there. And now if you add to the fact that all they have to do is say that they believe that it could be used for funding criminal activity, that gives them the reason that they need. And that's scary. You come across a very reasonable person. Your point of view is both interesting, very valuable. Thank you.
I agree.
I'm a realist. Go ahead. Go ahead, Jeff.
Sorry, I have a solution to this. It might be this is serious too. It might be people might not like it, but if the police departments need more money, I believe they do a budget every year. The chief probably does a budget, and Poe and Noah brought they do a budget every year. Ask the town for more money.
I don't work like that. Believe me. Every year one of the things they teach you when you go to the command schools for, you're doing the executive work in a department. One of the things they're telling you is by the end of the year, your budget better be gone. Oh. And the reason for that is politicians go, oh, hey, we gave you guys $50,000 for a budget last year, but you spent $49,000. So you know what? We're going to drop you down to $45,000. And that's the crazy thing about it. Now, something that is even crazier are the agencies, the municipalities, the state, the county, whatever it is, that they see that money and I've seen them where they've tried to transfer those funds that came in from civil asset forfeiture into the city or the county's general budgets. And everybody's like, whoa. Federal law says it's got to go towards the use for narcotics. Let's see here. Anybody? Jenny Wong. Howdy. Verna Gordon's here. Hey, Verna, how's it going? Thank you for joining us. If y'all don't know, Verna has her own channel. Verna, put your link up there to your channel for everybody. A lot of great live content out of the Philippines there. She lives about 2 hours away from Manila in the Philippines. I heard yesterday that a boy did a shooting at he's in jail, but parents have now been charged and on trial. That was here in Michigan, and actually our attorney friend Zach and I are probably going to end up doing a live stream about it. There's a lot involved with that, but Zach and I are going to talk about it. And I'm just like in this situation here, I have a lot of misgivings that are going on about this, and I'm not afraid to make my voice be heard on it. So, and everybody say howdy to Verna. Verna's really nice people, has a good channel over there, and it's growing pretty good too. So it's nice to see that. Let's see. He had never been arrested or had any contact with the police ever. He is always cool. Okay, I missed out on that one. So, all right, folks, you got any more questions on this? Put them there in the chat. If you've done nothing wrong and you know that you don't have anything on you that could get you arrested. All right. The thing is that the Constitution specifically protects you from unreasonable search and seizure. There have been a number of court cases that have come about, especially like with the Kansas Highway Patrol, where they were doing something called the two-step and the Kansas two-step. And what they were basically doing was they would stop people, ask if they could search their vehicle. People would say, nope, they go. And at that point, they would call for canine. They would go through the motions of the stop, and they would say, okay, give them their ticket and say, okay, you're good to go. And they would start to turn to walk away. Then they turn around and go, wait, I'm restopping you. And the Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that. You're violating their rights. You have to do it within a reasonable amount of time. So just remember that, folks, that there has to be a reasonable amount of time used during the stop. If they're not going to issue you a citation, it shouldn't be very long at all. They check your name, they check your registration, check your insurance. Everything's good to go. You should be clear to leave. All right. What they do is they will drag it out as long as they can to get that canine over there, hoping that they can make a hit. And that's a very big threat that they use. Well, I'm going to get the canine, and if the canine reads positive, we're going to have a problem. And a lot of people are like, holy man, I had my kid's boyfriend or girlfriend in the car the other day, and I know they smoke. Oh man. So just remember, folks, know your rights, know your laws. Make sure that you are watching for your constitutional rights. Make sure that you are keeping pace with what you need to. All right. If there is no reason and they're asking you if they can search, then that means they don't really have a reason to search. Because I can tell you personally, I have been there many times and said, you need to get out of the vehicle. I need to look through the vehicle. Okay. And they'd be like, why? Well, there's an open bottle of alcohol right there beside you. All right. That's all I need. All I need is for one thing to make it so that I can see as to give me a reason to search your vehicle. All right. And there's tons of things that can do that. So if they really want to get in there and they really think they have a reason to do it, they 9 times out of 10, they're going to find it. All right. So this I'm going to get the dog means they don't have what they need to get into your vehicle. So they're going to try to get the dog over, and they're going to try to use that dog to get into your vehicle. One of my issues with it, you're using the good faith approach on average people towards a system to rip them off on an industrial scale, essentially. It's David versus Goliath. It's what it is. Yeah, Steve Leto. I've been trying to get hold of him. I'd love to get him on and talk to him about some stuff. You're going, the old saying, you can't fight City Hall. Well, that's basically what they're relying on, because the government has all these resources. They have all the attorneys that are already employed by the government. So it's just part of their job to step over and do these other parts as well. Any way to clean paper, or why should people held guilty for what others have used? That's the problem with it. Yeah, you can actually wash. You have to be very careful that you don't wash the ink off. That's where it gets problematic. And then you notice after a while you take money and you get it wet and you see how it just starts coming apart. So that's, you have to be very careful. But yeah, you can clean money. I've seen it done. Let's see. Much love to both of you, Chad. Great people in my book, and much love to the rest of you. Awesome. Thank you, Auntie.
Thank you.
So, all right, folks. Well, I'm going to leave us off here. We're coming up to an hour. And, I just want to make sure that you are aware of your rights. All right. There's nothing wrong with going out there. And, the thing is, Sir Crepitus, I admit it was pro, even though I had probable cause. I still asked for consent. If they said no, I would search anyways. As long as I had good PC, it was nice on paper. Yeah, and that I agree. That's a good approach to it. Getting them to say, yeah, go ahead and check my vehicle. Or if they say no, then you have that as well. And, it's just, it's amazing stuff, but you have to, make sure you know your rights. And just remember this, there's a reason why officers say we're not going to argue this here. If you want to argue it, you can argue it in court. The reason for that is you can sit there and say no all you want to. And if they do something, they're going to do it. It's when you get to court and they actually have to put their feet to the fire and find out what is actually going on. That's when things take a turn. But none of this is going to be quick. None of it's going to be easy. It's going to cost you time. It's going to cost you money. Something else I think you all need to know. There is a procedure when we impound a vehicle. All right. And the reason that there are several reasons why that we do this, and it's not just for the intent of trying to find illegal items in the vehicle. You have to do an inventory of a vehicle in connection with doing that impound. And the reason for that is there have been times where tow truck drivers have hooked up to a car, went to pull off, something didn't feel right, went back and checked, and there's a baby laying in the backseat of the car, or there's a dog in the car, or there are things that are in the car that could end up being a real problem. Okay, so that's why police do an inventory of a vehicle before that vehicle's towed off, and it is legal. They are allowed to do it. Yeah, I'm not done yet, that goat. So the thing is that an inventory of a vehicle is legal. They can do it. A lot of people say, you don't have a right to go in my vehicle. Yeah, well, once they go to tow a vehicle and they hook that tow truck up to it, they do have the right to inventory what's in that vehicle. What happens if you run into a good cop, you had $6,000 in an envelope marked for for my motorcycle. I forget who it was, said they've had money on them to go buy a motorcycle. All right. Good officer sees that, opens it up. Holy smoke. Counts it. Okay, cool. Inventories it. That money goes into, they may just turn it over to you there on scene, but they also have the ability to, they'll take it in, they'll put it in as evidence, hold it for safekeeping. You come in, you get it. All right. But the thing is there have been times where people have said, I had this in my vehicle, I had that in my vehicle, it was worth this, it was worth that, and it was never in the vehicle. And then the department ends up taking the hit for these items or this money that was supposedly in the vehicle. So those are all reasons why they do that. So everybody, thank you so very much. Chad, do you have any final words for us here?
I learned a lot, Paul. Appreciate it.
My voice is real scratchy tonight, but I don't know how many times I got to say it. I got the sinuses, but folks, as always, please make sure you know your rights. Please make sure you know your laws. All right. Don't leave yourself vulnerable to things. All right. There are limits that can be held that are in place on everything. And if someone oversteps them in a position of authority over you, that's wrong. It's wrong. It's that simple. All right. And there are departments, agencies, whatever you want to call it out there, that will take advantage of these kinds of laws and these kinds of situations. All right. That's why you never see me carry cash. I don't carry cash anymore. And the thing is that you need to make sure you're covering yourself on that. So I know everybody's going to come back tomorrow for this. Marilyn Honig is going to join me tomorrow night at 8 p.m. We're going to discuss Mike Render and the Aftermath Foundation and what's going on there. Marilyn Honig has a huge amount of experience in operating nonprofit charities. She knows her ins and outs with these things. There are a lot of things that I take issue with that I'm seeing that is going on. There are a lot of things I wonder about the legality of it. There are a lot of things that I'm wondering about, is this ethically acceptable? We're going to have Marilyn. She's going to be joining me tomorrow night at 8 o'clock as we talk about this. And I don't think it's going to be a pretty show, but I think that it needs to be out there. It needs to be talked about, and we need to have an open, honest, and serious discussion about this. Folks, as always, I appreciate your time. You spend your precious time here with us. Hopefully, I'm able to give you some tidbits of information or something that's going to help you. All right. I welcome open debates. All right. But as always, I ask that, you want to debate, make sure you come with the information. So thank you so very much. Life is short. You get one shot. Make it count.